What if the women Hollywood taught you to admire were never allowed to be themselves? What if the smiles, gowns, and perfect close-ups were only half the story? These actresses lived inside carefully built illusions, while hiding lives the cameras were never meant to see. Somewhere between studio contracts and public fantasies, the truth slipped through the cracks. And right in the middle of this list, one story quietly exposes how fragile fame really was. Number 15. Clara Bow. Clara Bow did not walk into Hollywood. She exploded into it. She was loud, fast, emotional, and completely different from the polished stars of her era. When she starred in It, released in 1927, she became the face of youth itself. Newspapers crowned her the It Girl, and suddenly Clara Bow was everywhere, laughing, dancing, glowing. The public saw freedom. The studios saw a product. Behind the scenes, Clara's life was chaos disguised as celebration. She came from a deeply unstable childhood, and Hollywood never healed that. It only magnified it. Studio handlers monitored her every move, rewrote her personality, and controlled who she spoke to and where she went. Every rumor was exaggerated. Every mistake was magnified. She was expected to stay wild on screen, but calm in real life. That contradiction slowly crushed her. As sound films arrived, Clara struggled. Not because she lacked talent, but because the industry no longer wanted her authenticity. She was labeled difficult instead of overwhelmed, emotional instead of exhausted. While the audience still adored her, Clara was quietly unraveling under pressure that never let up. Her double life was simple and tragic. On screen, she represented freedom. Off-screen, she had none. Clara Bow did not fail Hollywood. Hollywood failed Clara Bow. Number 14. Mae West. Mae West looked like she broke every rule in Hollywood. In reality, she followed one rule perfectly: control everything. When she starred in She Done Him Wrong, released in 1933, audiences were shocked and delighted. Mae spoke boldly, moved boldly, and owned the screen like no one else. The public believed she was fearless and carefree, someone who lived exactly as she pleased. That was the illusion. Behind the curtain, Mae West was one of the most calculated minds in the industry. She wrote her own lines, controlled her image, and negotiated contracts when most actresses had no voice at all. Nothing about her persona was accidental. Every look, every pause, every joke was planned. She did not trust the system, so she outsmarted it. But living in control came with isolation. As tastes changed, studios quietly pushed her aside. The same boldness that made her famous became the reason she was excluded. Mae stayed visible, confident, and sharp in public. Privately, she was guarding a shrinking kingdom, refusing to admit that Hollywood had moved on. Her double life was not about hiding. It was about survival. Mae West knew the game, and she played it better than anyone. But even the smartest player cannot stop the board from changing. Number 13. Elizabeth Scott. Elizabeth Scott was marketed as danger wrapped in elegance. When she appeared in Dead Reckoning, released in 1947, the studio sold her as distant, mysterious, and impossible to reach. She was the woman men wanted but could never understand. That image worked so well that people assumed it was real. It was not. Elizabeth Scott lived under constant pressure to maintain an identity that was not her own. While studios pushed romantic storylines and public pairings, she quietly avoided them. She valued privacy in an era where privacy did not exist. The absence of visible romances made the press curious, then suspicious. Behind closed doors, Elizabeth built a life carefully hidden from the spotlight. She chose distance over exposure and silence over spectacle. But Hollywood punished silence. Once private details began leaking, the same industry that created her image withdrew its support. Roles faded. Invitations stopped. The machine moved on. Her double life was not reckless or dramatic. It was cautious. And in old Hollywood, caution was dangerous. Elizabeth Scott did not fall because of scandal. She fell because she refused to perform off camera. Sometimes the most rebellious act in Hollywood was simply saying nothing. Number 12. Hedy Lamarr. Hedy Lamarr was called the most beautiful woman in the world. Hollywood treated that title like a full job description. When audiences saw her in Samson and Delilah released in 1949, they saw elegance and mystery. What they did not see was intelligence that went far beyond the screen. Hedy was not just memorizing lines. She was thinking in patterns, systems, and ideas that studios ignored completely. Behind the glamour, Hedy worked on advanced concepts related to communication technology. She discussed ideas with scientists, sketched designs, and explored inventions during a time when actresses were expected to remain decorative. The industry laughed it off. Beauty, they believed, could not come with brains. As her film roles slowed, her contributions remained unrecognized for decades. She lived two lives. One as a screen icon, frozen in light. The other as a thinker working quietly in shadows, dismissed because she did not fit the expectation. Hedy Lamarr proves that Hollywood does not just hide secrets. Sometimes it refuses to see them at all. Number 11. Loretta Young. Loretta Young was sold as purity itself. Studios built her image on grace, kindness, and moral perfection. Films like The Farmer's Daughter, released in 1947, reinforced that vision. Audiences trusted her, believed her, admired her. Behind that image was a life shaped by fear of exposure. Loretta guarded her private world with extreme care, making decisions designed to protect an image that the industry demanded she maintain at all costs. Every public appearance was measured, every interview carefully shaped. The weight of keeping that image never faded. Even years later, she spoke about the pressure of being seen as flawless. Hollywood rewarded the illusion, not the person. Loretta Young's double life was not about deception. It was about survival inside a system that punished honesty. Her story reminds us that sometimes the brightest image hides the heaviest burden. Number 10. Olivia de Havilland. Olivia de Havilland looked like the gentlest presence in classic cinema. When audiences watched her in Gone with the Wind, released in 1939, they saw kindness, patience, and quiet strength. She was Hollywood's idea of grace, soft-spoken, proper, never difficult. That image was only half the truth. Behind the scenes, Olivia was calculating something far more dangerous than drama. She was studying contracts, studio rules, power structures. While others played along, Olivia asked questions. And, in old Hollywood, asking questions was seen as rebellion. She challenged the studio system directly, refusing to accept endless contracts that treated actors like property. The legal battle that followed was brutal and risky. Studios quietly hoped she would fail, so no one else would try. Instead, she won. Her case reshaped the industry and gave performers freedom they never had before. Publicly, Olivia remained composed. Privately, she carried the stress of standing alone against an entire system. She never shouted, never played the rebel. She smiled and waited, knowing exactly what she was doing. Her double life was subtle but powerful. On screen, she was gentle. Off screen, she was strategic. Olivia de Havilland didn't just survive Hollywood, she quietly changed it. Number 9. Tallulah Bankhead. Tallulah Bankhead never pretended to be ordinary. From the moment she appeared in Lifeboat Released in 1944, she commanded attention. Her voice, her posture, her confidence felt larger than the screen itself. The public saw boldness and charm. Hollywood saw unpredictability. Behind the scenes, Tallulah lived without filters. She spoke freely, acted freely, and refused to soften herself to fit expectations. While studios tried to manage her image, she made it clear that control was not part of the deal. But freedom came at a cost. Tallulah's lifestyle clashed with studio discipline. Roles became harder to secure. Doors quietly closed. Yet she never apologized for who she was. She leaned into wit, intelligence, and raw presence, even as the industry pulled away. Her double life wasn't hidden. It was ignored. The public saw a fearless star. Few noticed how often she stood alone, pushed to the edge, because she would not be reshaped. Tallulah Bankhead reminds us that sometimes Hollywood doesn't punish secrets. It punishes honesty. Number 8. Joan Crawford. Joan Crawford built herself from nothing. When she appeared in Mildred Pierce, released in 1945, she wasn't just acting. She was proving something. The public saw ambition rewarded, strength admired. Success earned. Privately, Joan lived in constant fear of losing it all. She controlled every detail of her image, from lighting to posture to publicity. Nothing was left to chance. That control came from deep insecurity, shaped by poverty and rejection early in life. Fame did not erase that fear. It fed it. Behind closed doors, relationships were strained. Expectations were extreme. Love was conditional. While the public celebrated her confidence, Joan battled anxiety that never let her rest. Her double life was fueled by survival instinct. Joan Crawford didn't just want success. She needed it to feel safe. Hollywood rewarded her perfection while quietly draining her humanity. She wasn't cruel. She was terrified of becoming invisible again. Number 7. Jean Simmons. Jean Simmons was introduced as purity itself. Films like Hamlet, released in 1948, turned her into the definition of innocence. Studios dressed her in softness and sold her as untouched elegance. Audiences believed it completely. Behind that image was a young woman growing up under constant pressure. Relationships were controlled. Choices were guided. Independence came slowly and painfully. As she matured, the roles did not. Jean struggled against an image that refused to age with her. When she sought deeper characters, Hollywood hesitated. Innocence had become her cage. Publicly, she smiled. Privately, she fought to be seen as more than a symbol. Her double life was quiet resistance. Jean Simmons was not fragile. She was constrained. And when she finally stepped away from that image, it was an act of self-rescue. Number 6. Rita Hayworth. Rita Hayworth was sold as a dream. When audiences watched Gilda, released in 1946, they saw confidence and glow. The camera loved her. The world adored her. She became an icon almost overnight. Behind that image was exhaustion. Rita was naturally shy. Studios reshaped her completely, changing her appearance, her voice, even her name. She learned to perform confidence while feeling anything but. Relationships were turbulent. Expectations were relentless. As years passed, her struggles were misunderstood. Public behavior was judged without compassion. What people called decline was something far deeper that no one wanted to acknowledge. Her double life was heartbreaking. The world saw a symbol. Rita lived as a person overwhelmed by the weight of that symbol. Fame never protected her. It consumed her. Rita Hayworth did not disappear. She was hidden in plain sight. Number 5. Judy Garland. Judy Garland was introduced to the world as pure joy. When she sang her way into history in The Wizard of Oz, released in 1939, she became a symbol of hope, warmth, and endless optimism. Audiences believed her smile was real. Hollywood needed it to be real. Behind the curtain, Judy's life was tightly controlled from an early age. Schedules were punishing. Expectations were unrealistic. Her natural energy was monitored instead of protected. She was taught how to perform happiness long before she understood what happiness actually meant. As she grew older, the gap between the public image and private reality widened. The audience still wanted the cheerful girl. Judy was becoming an adult, navigating pressure that never slowed down. Mistakes were judged harshly. Vulnerability was treated like weakness. Her double life was one of constant performance. Even off-screen, she felt expected to entertain. The joy that made her famous slowly became something she had to manufacture. Judy Garland gave the world magic while quietly losing herself inside it. And that contrast remains one of Hollywood's most painful illusions. Number 4. Marlene Dietrich. Marlene Dietrich did not fit Hollywood, so Hollywood turned her into a myth. From films like Morocco, released in 1930, audiences saw confidence, mystery, and effortless control. She challenged fashion, attitude, and presence without saying a word. The public believed she was fearless. Privately, Marlene lived by her own rules, far from studio expectations. She rejected limitations placed on women and refused to apologize for it. While studios shaped her image, she quietly reshaped herself, choosing independence over approval. As years passed, Hollywood grew uncomfortable with her refusal to soften. Roles changed, attention faded, but Marlene never retreated. She lived exactly as she chose, even when the spotlight moved elsewhere. Her double life was not about hiding. It was about refusing to explain. Marlene Dietrich showed Hollywood that confidence does not need permission. Number 3. Greta Garbo. Greta Garbo walked away from fame. At the height of her career, after films like Camille released in 1936, she did something Hollywood could not understand. She disappeared. The public saw mystery, silence, distance. Studios sold it as intrigue. In reality, Greta simply wanted out. She disliked attention, avoided interviews, and resisted the idea that fame meant ownership. Behind the image of aloof elegance was someone deeply private. She did not enjoy performance off-screen. She did not enjoy spectacle. When Hollywood demanded more access, Greta chose absence instead. Her double life existed because she refused to let the world see her fully. She gave audiences unforgettable performances, then took her life back. Greta Garbo proved that walking away can be the most powerful statement of all. Number 2. Loretta Young. Loretta Young's image was built on perfection, and Hollywood guarded it like glass. From the very beginning, studios framed her as grace made human. When audiences watched her in The Bishop's Wife, they didn't just see a character. They saw trust, calm, reliability. She became the face of composure in an industry fueled by pressure. Behind that flawless image, Loretta lived carefully and cautiously. Every decision was weighed, every public moment measured. Privacy was not a preference. It was protection. She learned early that honesty carried risk, and silence felt safer. Smiling for the camera became part of the job, even when the effort behind it went unseen. As decades passed, and Hollywood changed, her image did not. She remained locked into a version of herself created long ago. While others reinvented, Loretta preserved. Not because it was easy, but because stepping outside that image felt dangerous. Her double life wasn't loud or shocking. It was quietly draining. Loretta Young reminds us that perfection comes at a cost. And sometimes, the hardest performance is the one you're never allowed to stop giving. Number 1. Gene Tierney. Gene Tierney looked like calm itself, the kind that felt natural and effortless. When she appeared in Laura, audiences saw elegance in motion. Her voice was steady, her presence controlled. She seemed untouched by chaos, as if balance followed her wherever she went. Off-screen, life was far less gentle. Gene carried inner struggles that never reached the spotlight. They were misunderstood, minimized, and pushed aside because they did not match the image Hollywood needed her to maintain. Support was limited. Silence was expected. Strength was assumed. Even when she returned to acting after time away, nothing changed on the surface. Studios wanted the same serene image, not questions, not truth. Gene delivered what was asked of her, even when it required incredible endurance. Her double life was not about deception. It was about survival. She gave audiences beauty and calm, while carrying weight no script could explain. Jean Tierney stands as a powerful reminder that the brightest faces often hide the heaviest stories, and grace does not mean ease. So now, let me ask you again. How many of these stories did you already know? And how many surprised you? Old Hollywood wasn't just about glamour. It was about survival, performance, and silence. If these stories changed how you see classic films, let us know in the comments. Share this with someone who loves film history. Hit subscribe for more hidden stories, and remember this. Sometimes the real drama never made it to the screen.